You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button.
It's really about getting them in football-related activities, installation, relative to your offense and defense. We have some new coaches, certainly, on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. So, getting them into the flow of things and, essentially how, we want the practice to look. I think our guys have done a really good job. The off-season's been really good. The attention to detail, the accountability in terms of the off-season workouts has really been outstanding, and it's carried its way into the practices.
Brian Kelly meeting with reporters on Thursday after the first media availability of spring drills. Michael Cauble was there from WBRZ. He's with us now. How are you, man?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing really well.
A little tired after having to be out at spring practice at 6:50 in the morning, but hey.
Crimea River. I work out at 5:30 every morning. We make choices.
But you're superhuman.
We make choices in life. What are you complaining about? You go watch football practice. I mean, don't complain about that. What are we talking about?
Don't complain about that.
Sounds like you're complaining about that.
Ooh, I am complaining about that. I'll admit it.
I mean, you're not digging ditches, Cobbs.
That's true.
You're watching dudes play football in a climate-controlled environment.
Oh, shooting holes in all my arguments, man.
I mean, don't complain. Don't complain about being tired. All right. What if I said, okay, what was the biggest thing that stood out? Like 20 minutes, you got to watch practice shot. What was the biggest thing that stood out?
It's the first day that we're getting to watch spring practice. There's nothing that stands out. I mean, it's a bunch of teaching that goes on. I think that's the biggest thing that stood out is the lack of depth at running back. Honestly, that's probably the first thing that catches your eye. After that, it was pretty much business as usual. The new coaches stood out to me because obviously I know some of them and recognize them from years ago, and it's great to see them back on campus or on campus for the first time. And as Bo Davis is concerned, I never thought I'd be alive to see the day where he actually showed up and coached at LSU, so that's great to see.
Why?
But because he was like the white whale, right? They were hunting him forever. Every time there was an opening, I always felt like Bo Davis's name. It was the John Gruden, of the defensive line coach. It was like, it's going to happen. He knows somebody, and so finally it happened, I guess, is the most, important thing as far as that goes. But just in general, it's just, a bunch of teaching and a bunch of guys trying to get their feet underneath them. It wasn't clunky, but it wasn't a fine-oiled machine either. And you could see some of that in some of the drills and some of the work that they were doing with the players. So that's what stood out the most to me.
Sometimes whenever you have that 2 or 3 month gap from the end of the season to spring, there's guys who will go hit the weight room, and they do sort of change physically in those 2 or 3 months, either losing weight or getting big, young guys getting bigger. Did anybody sort of catch your eye?
Well, I was looking through my video that I'd shot at practice just to give you some notes and stuff. And Chris Hilton does seem to be bigger and stronger than I remember him being. He was one guy that kind of stood out. And when you're looking at the receivers in a row and you're kind of seeing their different body types, it's clear that there are, some guys that look like they're ready for prime time, and then there's some guys that aren't. Like on the flip side of that, it didn't look like Shelton Sampson had gained a lot of mass to him. He just didn't look that much bigger than I remember him last year. And that's one of the guys that I was kind of looking to see that body change, and didn't see it. That's pretty much at the skill, as far as offensive line, defensive line, I didn't really see a lot of that. And I'll be honest, I didn't get to look at the safeties. I was watching some corners with Corey, some D-line with Bo, and then a little bit of offense, with receivers, running backs kind of stuff.
Wait, I'm sorry. So did you say you did or did not look at the offensive and defensive lines?
No, I watched a little bit of the defensive line and a couple of plays with the offensive line. So okay. I didn't see who was running first team. I know DJ Chester. I know DJ Chester is taking the first team snaps. And that was really the only question mark that I had there. But the defensive line, I did watch him work with Bo, with the tackle specifically, just to kind of see the depth and how are they going about addressing that. And it's not thin, but it's certainly getting there, right? If they've supplemented McAnally, I think is the guy.
Yeah, the offensive lineman, Chemo.
who moved over. Yeah, so you could see him. He was there. I think he was fourth in the rotation. So, like, right away, you just kind of see how thin they are working there.
Did you happen to notice Sean Washington? He's the JUCO transfer from New Orleans who started his career at Georgia, went JUCO, and now is with LSU.
Is it Sean or Shone?
So it's Brian Kelly is mispronouncing it. It's Sean. It's Sean Washington. I mean, that's not going to surprise anybody that Brian Kelly's mispronouncing a player's name, but it's Sean Washington. Yes.
Okay. No, I did not see him. I just glanced at the roster and saw what number he was. It looks like he is fifth in line. It's because it's spelled Shone, right? So.
And Brian Kelly keeps saying Shone, but I am to understand, as it has been told to me, that the young man's name is Sean. It's Sean Washington.
All right. Well, he was fifth in drills, I can tell you that. So just looking at going back through my video again and kind of seeing where everybody.
I mean, like old Cody Dickerson, right? I'm going to go ahead. Look, I stand to be corrected, but I'm going to go ahead on a limb here and say, given Brian Kelly's tendency to not pronounce players' names correctly, that I think I've got this one.
You're probably right. You're probably in there before he is. Yeah, it's man. It took me a couple press conferences to figure out who he was actually talking about, and I'm like, who is he talking about? Who is this guy? But
Shone.
And it was great because he would also mix up like old Notre Dame players with like LSU rosters.
Yeah.
I was like, that guy doesn't play here, coach.
That would happen at times. By the way, Sean Washington's LSU page, his the photo at his LSUsports.net page almost looks like it's AI generated. Look at that. He's wearing number 7 too, by the way, in the photo. It almost looks AI generated. Like it's I don't know.
Well, that threw me when Will Campbell was wearing number 7, and I was like, Will Campbell, I'm pretty sure it's Will Campbell.
Well, he did that last year.
Yeah, just something you're not used to seeing.
Yeah,
because we don't get to see that many practices.
No,
like
that's true.
Once the season ends, it's nothing that we see on the norm. So,
Cobble's with us. He's on Twitter at Cauble. What about quarterbacks?
Look good. Swan was there, right? I mean, Garrett obviously looks really in control and kind of, taking control of that situation. So I'm looking at your picture of Shone now. It does kind of look. It looks like he's got a Terminator eye thing going on.
Pretty good, man. Dude.
Watching on WBTR, by the way, the television broadcast of After Further Review. You can catch it every day right here. Yep.
Thanks so much for the shout out and the plug.
My pleasure. I'm happy to have you on. No, I mean, Garrett looked fine. Again, I didn't see him throwing to receivers. He's just doing drills in the portions that we're in. So looking forward to some of those days where we get to stay a little bit longer and see how they run it. But as you might run from my Twitter page, some of the things that Brian Kelly talked about was just the changing of the offense and how it's going to have to be really a team-oriented thing. And it was interesting because Brian put it on the offensive line as much as anything, to really help move the offense along. But to me, the question I didn't get to ask, and I wanted to, was about the tight ends and how much more involved are they going to be in this, both blocking and pass catching. And Brian kind of alluded to it. He said maybe some of those Jaden quick runs become quick passes, quick outs, those kinds of things, and the backs get more involved, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm excited. That was the one thing I wanted to kind of talk to Brian about, and he did a good job of answering. Is just how is this offense going to evolve now that the play caller, or the quarterback, I guess, is no longer really such a run threat.
It's undeniably going to be different. Cobble's with us here. Hey, one other thing, I noticed you did put up Brian Kelly's answer about Corey Raymond. You had some B-roll as well, Corey on the field. Any observations of the DBs today? Just that, the transfers are working right in there. Javian Toviano's right in there. That's kind of just going through it and looking at it. You'll see the video that I shot. That's basically all I got to see. It wasn't a ton of stuff, but that was kind of what I was alluding to in the coaching taking place early in these practices. You can see, I think it was maybe J.K. Johnson or Jair, just trying to learn the way Corey wants to teach it. And you can kind of see it happening in front of your eyes because Corey's showing them like the hand placement technique, and then they're mimicking it and kind of figuring it out, not figuring it out. So there's some of that, but again, you don't get a real feel for it till you start to kind of see, the 11-on-11 or the 7-on-7 drills that they'll run with each other. So right now, it just felt like a lot of teaching, a lot of getting back up to speed, kind of like you alluded to. And
that's fine, right? That's exactly where they're going to be. Next week, we're going to see them next Thursday. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more out of it there than we get to see today.
Did you get any impressions of the new coaches and how they coached? It was Blake Baker or any of the guys defensively?
Yeah. Is it Peoples?
Kevin Peoples.
Seemed to be a little bit more involved and vocal than I would have thought for a new coach. But again, maybe that's the position, that seemed to maybe to warrant it a little bit more. Obviously familiar with Blake. It seemed, like he was just right back in the mix. I'm not real familiar with the safeties coach. Again, he was far away. I did get some video of him, but couldn't tell you anything. And then Bo was real hands-on with them again. So with the defensive line. So that was good to see. I think that's kind of what you want to see, right? That's one of the things that they were probably lacking in the past, is a guy that didn't necessarily play the position, trying to coach the position. And so I think that was great. And, I love Brad Davis to death. So I'm just always happy to see him out there. So, the rest of it was pretty much, business as usual, things that we've kind of grown accustomed to. BK walking from one end to the other. Started at the offense when we were there, finished with the defense. So getting his eyes on a little bit of everything.
He is Michael Cauble, sports director over at WBRZ, on Twitter at Cauble. I would assume full reports tonight at 6 and 10?
Yeah, Bree Anderson is going to be bringing it home tonight at 6 and 10 because I had such an early morning.
I get it. Early morning.
Hey. Yeah.
You're going to be up. You're going to be up out there before 7 a.m. I mean,
just because I know you, I know you'll actually like this topic. If I don't get it online, try to find Brian talking about punt returns and how they've kind of been negated in college football. It's actually interesting stuff. And basically you kind of get an insight into why he treats punt returns the way that he does. And he's kind of honest in his answer. So I think that's something you or like football geeks would really appreciate, kind of having the coach come out and be honest about it.
Football geeks. That felt like a backhanded compliment.
No way, bro. It's a total compliment.
Yep. That is sports geek. That is face for news television.
That's right. That's
in Baton Rouge.
Me.
Michael Cauble, their sports director. Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.